UFC Vegas 87 was not the disaster that people were making it out to be all fight week. It wasn't the best fight night we've ever seen, but we had two wild come-from-behind finishes, a pretty big upset, an interesting decision, and some excitement overall. Let's go ahead and talk about the UFC Vegas 87 fight card. First, we'll talk about the bets. They weren't great. I lost $62. A unit for me is $100. I lost 0.62 units. Always disappointing when that happens. The safety parlay did lose. Javid Basharat, I believe he got robbed. We'll talk about that in a little more detail. I think Ayman Zahabi was just sitting on right hands and bombing him, where Javid was busier. Javid was controlling the cage. Javid was coming forward. I actually think his biggest undoing was those half-assed trash takedown attempts that made him look desperate when he didn't need to be. But we'll talk about that fight in a little more detail. The Shamil Gaziev bet lost. That's fine. That deserved to lose that bet, betting on that absolute fraud. We'll talk about that fight in a little bit as well. But the Nurmagomedov over 1.5, that seemed great to me. I took that bet. And the difference between making money this week and losing money this week, with at least the bets that I had here, was freaking Raul Rosas Jr. That fight dropped. That didn't end up on this card. I parlayed him with Vitor Petrino, but then Rosas dropped, and then I just ended up with a half a unit minus 300 bet, which is pretty stupid. But not a great night, not a miserable night either. I did lose $62, but some of our premium members absolutely crushed. Joseph Wirtz, also known as Squirts, in our Discord, just put up a $17,000, $750 winning DraftKings lineup. And this is not a coincidence. Not only has Joseph put up massive numbers in the past, other premium members have as well. We have, I think this gets us to $500,000 in DraftKings winnings over the last 6 months. So congratulations to Joseph Wirtz. Luck was on his side. Both Loik Radzhabov in his lineup, Vinicius Oliveira in his lineup, both of them with come from behind. This was not a winning lineup if their opponents were able to survive just a little bit longer. But either way, congratulations to him. Put some big money on the board. We had the best DraftKings ownership projections in the game. Our DraftKings write-ups, our core plays were all rock solid. If you want to unlock not only the bets, the picks, the round line leans, and more for UFC 299, we already have the picks up, and the bets that we have so far are up as well. You can unlock all of that for only $10 a month. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. Let's talk about that big Loik come-from-behind victory. He didn't look great, right? He was losing this fight. He was going to lose a decision. Didn't really get the wrestling going. Was getting outstruck, was getting outgrappled. Like, all the things were not going his way. He didn't look useless, but he was not winning this fight. He was not the better fighter in that cage. But Al-Selwady, young. Al-Selwady not tested. Al-Selwady doesn't have the UFC experience under his belt. Started to get a little flashy, a little comfortable, started doing some stupid shit. And then he paid the ultimate price. Loik Radzhabov blasted that dude, put him out, won this fight. A fight he was very clearly going to lose. So congratulations to Loik. Here's the two takeaways, in my opinion. One, can never count Loik out of a fight. You just can't count him out. He was TKO with leg kicks in his last fight, but I mean, he literally couldn't move, so that is what it is. But now we know he's insanely tough. He will come forward. He will never give up on himself, and he will try to swing and try to win a fight. That's one takeaway. The other takeaway is Al-Selwady is a moron, but very talented. His wrestling looked good. Striking looked good. He is very good, very talented, deserved to be the favorite in this fight, even though he was fucking finished. But he is a very good fighter. I am looking forward to his next fight, but take a break. Let that chin heal up and learn your damn lesson. Christian Leroy Duncan seemed to learn his stupid, flashy bullshit lesson. He didn't pay the price by getting knocked out, but he was out-decisioned by Armen Petrosian a few fights ago. Anyway, congratulations to Loik for the massive come-from-behind victory. Another good win, decent fight. There was a finish. It was fun, all of that. But Ludovit Klein was a tremendous favorite, and he looked like a tremendous favorite. He dominated every second of this fight. Shot a takedown. Didn't even need to do a take. I don't know why he shot a takedown, but he did. Got it. Controlled the striking. Got a finish. he was fighting somebody who is already not on his level and then also on short notice. So Ludovit Klein looked like a minus 900 favorite. He was a minus 900 favorite. Congratulations to Ludovit. You don't really get a lot of takeaways from fights like this, but I'm glad they got a fight for him. Then he got paid. You put in a training camp. You pay your coaches. You do all those things. At least he got the fight. At least he got to make some money. So looking forward to see Ludovit's next fight. Hopefully a quick turnaround since, there's no way he's hurt from the 4 minutes of fighting. Then we have Christian Leroy Duncan. I don't know if a lot of you are going to like my take here. First of all, obviously he looked good, right? When he was striking, he was controlling, super loose, having a little bit of fun. When he had Ribeiro blacked up against the cage, he was just elbowing him in the face, doing whatever he wanted to do. But, and this is the take a lot of people aren't going to like, as soon as he got a little bit of pressure, as soon as Claudio Ribeiro's like, you know what, I'm not a punching bag. Let me move forward. Let me try to make something happen myself. What did Christian Leroy Duncan do? He turned into a wrestler. He didn't like the pressure. Did not like the pressure, immediately turned into a wrestler. And he ended up finishing the fight on the ground. So good for him. I think the takeaway for me here is that Christian Leroy Duncan is a very, very good fighter. A very good fighter. But we need to keep an eye on his matchups, because if he fights somebody who will stay in his face and pressure him and push him back and not let him dance around and point fight and stay all loose, he can have some very real trouble. Armin Petrosian beat him like that. But Christian Leroy Duncan turned into a wrestler the minute he got a little bit of pressure, and it was surprising to see. And I get it. Ribeiro hits hard, and Christian literally fought a perfect fight. I'm not critiquing he fought a perfect fight. Looked good striking, showed us he can wrestle, that's a positive, and then finished the fight on the ground. All good things. But the fact that he started wrestling as soon as he got some pressure tells you some things. I'll be interested to see what his next matchup is, and if he's got a guy with decent takedown defense and good forward pressure, we might get Christian Leroy Duncan at a juiced line that we can exploit just a little bit. But either way, good for him. I was glad to see the wrestling. We know that he has a pretty well-rounded skill set now. Here's your bad decision, okay? My face and Javid's face were exactly the same. We had the exact same face. I'm watching the fights. I understood it was close. I knew it was a close. 29-28 seemed appropriate to me. But I was just as shocked. I don't think Aiemann Zahabi won that fight. And I'm not just saying that because Javid broke the safety parlay. Brandon Moreno broke the safety parlay as well. And I think he lost that fight. And a lot of people think he won. I do not. Javid, on the other hand, I think Javid won this fight. To me, he was controlling the cage. There wasn't any meaningful damage done except for Aimann's eye is shut. Javid seemed to be controlling the cage, seemed to be controlling the pace, landed more strikes, seemed to be in control of what was happening, while Aiemann was just waiting. Oh, big right, I missed. Shit. Waiting. Oh, big right, I missed. I think Aiemann lost the first 2 rounds just trying to bomb big right hands. What I do think Javid did that didn't work well for him was the half-ass takedown attempts. There was an exchange, and I forget if it was the 3rd round or the 2nd round, but there was an exchange there where Javid shot like 2 to 3 takedowns in a row. All of them were trash. All of them were for too far away. They all got stuffed very easily, and optically, that just made Javid look desperate. He's just shooting bad takedowns from too far away. They're getting stuffed, and now Aiemann is in control. He's feeling himself, and it was just bad optics. Obviously, there was a few big moments, if you will, where Aiemann landed a meaningful strike and people went crazy. And that is another interesting point because Aiemann Zahabi's brother is Firas Zahabi, as we talked about, as the commentators wouldn't stop talking about. But Firas Zahabi is a very good coach. He has been a high-level coach for a very long time, and you learn tricks. One of those things, you ever watch American Top Team and more the Brazilian coaches? Opa, opa. They're just, every leg kick, they're loud. They're trying to put an impression on the judges. They hear a judge can't tell every strike if it lands, doesn't land. It's hard for a judge to see. Literally looking through a cage and up, it's hard for them to see every little detail, but they can feel the energy and they can hear the sounds. So these judges saw Javid shooting trash takedowns that he didn't need to shoot, and they got stuffed. bad energy. They heard Amon's corner. Anytime anything meaningful landed at all, nice job, you got him. And that's what the judges are hearing. So I can understand how the judges went that direction. I think it is a bad decision. Is it egregious? Is it crazy? Is it robbery? It's not that bad, but I do think it was a bad decision. I think Javid won that fight. Amen Zahabi can't be winning fights just sitting on giant right hands that don't knock it. If they knocked Javid out, sure, but they didn't. And at one point, they're like, oh, he tripped a little bit. Like, I don't think Amen won this fight, but I do think his coaches won the fight for him. I think the over-exaggerating of the cheering and the celebrating anytime anything happened was huge for him, and Javid only has himself to blame for not pushing the pace, not being better with the wrestling, and not controlling it more. So if it goes to the judges and you lose a decision, you really only have yourself to blame. I am annoyed safety parlay missed. The only good news I got going on here with the safety parlay is that I do seem to be the pay-per-view king with the safety parlay. I've hit 5 of the last pay-per-views, 7 safety parlays covered the last 5 pay-per-views. So we should be good for UFC 299. Another wild come-from-behind victory. Bernardo Sopai was Jacob's underdog lock of the week. And I think we watched that fight, and I think it was a good read. Right? Sopai came in there, looked fantastic, was winning the striking exchanges, was winning the wrestling exchanges. Sopai looked absolutely incredible until the end of the second round. And then at the end of the second round, he lost the scramble, ended up on bottom, and the much larger, much more dangerous, much harder hitting Vinicius Oliveira cracked him. It didn't put him out because he was already on the ground, and it's fine. But you can tell something was like, oh, shit. So a couple of things. One, Sopai stepped up on short notice. Sopai looked incredible early. Very good things, right? He stepped up on short notice and then ended up looking incredible. He looked incredible early. That is great. But then he took some very real damage and was put out with one of the most devastating flying knees I have ever seen. It landed clean. I'm going to show it to you right here. It landed clean. It was absolutely spectacular. I mean, this poor kid came in here, looked incredible, about to get his first UFC win as an underdog on short notice against another hyped prospect, and he eats a flying knee directly to the chin and just completely unconscious. One of the funniest things I saw on Twitter, well, nothing funny about this poor kid, but one of the funniest things I saw on Twitter was somebody say, Sopai just turned into one of Andy's toys. And that is what that looks like. If you don't know what that reference is, in Toy Story, anytime Andy's coming, the toys are just like limp. And that's exactly what he looked like. So huge win for Vinicius. He was losing that fight. He was not the better fighter. He was not the more skilled fighter, but certainly the bigger, the more dangerous, and the harder hitting fighter. And anytime you see a come from behind victory, it tells you how much a fighter believes in themselves and how they don't quit on themselves. So that's a huge takeaway. 2 takeaways. 1, Bernardo Sopai is a very good fighter, deserves to be in the UFC, but he needs a long break so he doesn't do permanent damage to his chin. If he comes back too soon, eats a couple more shots, he'll never get that chin back. He needs a long break. The other takeaway is we know Vinicius Oliveira doesn't quit on himself. We already knew he was tough. We already knew he was dangerous. We already knew he could win by finish. I picked him to win, literally, because he's so big and so dangerous. But to see him losing, to see him down and not quit on himself and come back and stay strong, stay active, keep the cardio going and win this fight was absolutely incredible. Congratulations to Vinicius Oliveira. It takes us to Eric Anders and Jamie Pickett. First of all, Jamie Pickett retired. And he's a good dude. He's a good dude. His reasoning for retiring is like, I have kids. They count on me. They depend on me. They need me to show them the ways of the world and lead them to the future. And I can't do that if I'm fighting and I'm getting CTE and all of these other things. I'm adding words here. He didn't say it quite like that. But the overall point was solid. And Jamie Pickett's a good dude. Stepped up on short notice more than one time. He's a good dude. And what's unfortunate for him is he almost won this fight. He dropped Eric Anders. And Eric recovered pretty quick, bounced up, got it going. The story of this fight is exactly what we thought it would be. Eric Anders is not a very good fighter, but he's a physical fighter. He's a strong fighter. He's fast. And he's just a bully. He is a bully inside of that cage. He comes forward, pushes you against the cage, drags you to the ground, just sort of does what he can do. He's a bully, a big, strong bully. And it's working for him. He's winning some fights doing it. He just won this fight. That's 2 in a row being a bully. So congratulations to Eric Anders on his bully tactics, but he's not very skilled, and his chin is out the door. Marc-Andre Barrault dropped him the very first punch he threw in his last fight. Actually, did Eric Anders win 2 in a row? I don't remember. Anyway, when he fought Marc-Andre Barrault, he got dropped. Very first punch he threw. Jamie Pickett lands a stiff jab, I think it was. If it wasn't a stiff jab, it was a straight right. It wasn't anything crazy. Drops him. His chin is gone. He's a bully. He's strong. He's tough. He was able to take down Jamie over and over and over again and win this fight. But we got to keep a close eye on Eric Anders and where he's going and what his next matchup is, because there could be some value there as well. You can't get to the highest levels just being athletic. And we're going to talk about Vitor Petrino in a minute, because that's basically what he's trying to do. Turns out Steve Erceg can strike. Look at that man. Does that look like a guy who can strike? No, the answer is no, but he can. He can strike. First round, he was busy. Comes forward, lets his hands go. He is not soft. He comes forward and he fights. Plenty of volume. He even made a joke in his post-fight inside the cage. He said something to the effect of, people kept saying I have terrible striking and no head movement. And I still don't have any head movement, but I think I proved him wrong with the striking. And he's right. He doesn't have head movement, but he's got very good striking offensively. He's got good volume, and now he has good power. This was another incredible knockout. I mean, Matt Schnell, we know, is insanely durable, and we're going to watch Steve Erceg right here absolutely put this dude's lights out. And now all of a sudden, Steve Erceg has power. Was already a decent grappler, was already a good forward volume type striker, and now we know he has power. Steve Erceg could genuinely be a problem. And I'm very interested to see what his next matchup is, because while I picked Steve Erceg to win, I had him in a parlay, all of that worked. I figured Matt Schnell was going to be able to survive quite a bit. And getting knocked out was certainly not one of the things that I thought could happen in this fight. So congratulations to Steve Erceg, and I'm very curious to see what they do next for him, if they're going to try to build him up, or if they're just going to throw him to the wolves and say, hey, here's a ranked guy, good luck. So very interested to see what happens to Steve Erceg next. And thank God for wrestling, right? If you're a Nurmagomedov, you are in your corners going, thank Allah for wrestling. Because he was not winning those striking exchanges. Umar Nurmagomedov was dropped early. And what was interesting about the drop is it was a glazing shot. It barely grazed his head. When they show that camera angle of Beksat dropping Umar that's on the outside, and you just see Beksat just whap, throw it, it looks like it lands clean and flush. But that's not how it landed. It basically barely grazed, and Umar drops. He instantly recovered. He recovered very, very quickly. I don't think the fight was close to being stopped or anything like that. And then he started wrestling. The takeaway for me here is Umar is as good of a wrestler as we knew he was. And it was great that he went to it and he used it. And I don't think there's a takeaway here to say his striking sucks, he was exposed, because I don't think that's the case. I think the other takeaway here is that Beksat is very, very good. And we said that coming into this week. Beksat is a very, very good fighter. He was just absolutely wrestle-fucked by Umar Nurmagomedov. Outside of that, he had plenty of success. His striking looked good. He controlled range. He was fast. He landed some very clean, solid strikes. But he couldn't defend those takedowns. And I don't know who can, because Umar does a phenomenal job snatching up a leg, changing directions, going every which way, sitting you down. And then once you're down, getting back up is almost impossible. His control is absolutely insane. I had the over 1.5 rounds on this fight. That was one of the easiest bets I had all night. And it had nothing to do with, oh, Umar's boring or that, because I don't think he was that boring, right? It wasn't exciting. But that's because he got blasted. And he was like, nope, I got to win this fight. I'm going to do what I need to do to win. And that's what you have to do. Everybody forgets the exciting guy. If Umar lost this fight because he was on his feet just letting his hands fly and we were entertained for 5 minutes and then he got knocked out, how many people would actually objectively sit down and be like, you know what? Good for Umar. That was an exciting fight. No. Everybody would be like, this guy sucks. Fraud check. Fraud check. That's what everybody would say. So for Umar to get dropped, lose the striking exchange, and say, I'm all in on the wrestling to get a win, then that's what he needs to do. Because now he's still undefeated, still a huge prospect, still a big deal. And I don't think the dropping takes away anything from him because he recovered so quickly and ran right through him the rest of that fight. But Beksat is very good. I hope they give Beksat a non-wrestler. I hope they give Beksat somebody that'll stand there and strike with him so that we can see how good he is. Because the last few days, people were like all of a sudden Facebook detectives and Twitter detectives. And, well, I called whatever ridiculous country these fights were in, and turns out it's not MMA, it's some other random rule set, so Beksat's a giant fraud and his record's fake. And then he came in here, he dropped Umar, and on the feet he looked fantastic, and he was out-wrestled by the best wrestler in the division. So Beksat deserves all the respect in the world. I don't think you take anything away from Umar for getting dropped. It was a glazing shot, which is kind of like, and I know I'm saying glazing and not grazing, and I apologize for that, but I'm not going to refilm this whole thing. So glazing it is. And I know it was a glancing shot, which is, I guess, could be somewhat concerning. Like, ooh, that wasn't even flush and he dropped. But I wasn't worried about it because he instantly was like, ooh, we're wrestling now. So it wasn't as if the bell saved him or he was in so many real trouble or it was a bad takedown attempt because he was half unconscious. Nope. Bounced right up like a bounce ball or a super ball and then just immediately started wrestling. So Umar Nurmagomedov, thanks a lot for wrestling, because that's the only way he got this win, and that's just how some fights are going to be. Muhammad Mokaev also thanks a lot for wrestling, because Muhammad Mokaev was also not winning this fight on his feet. The difference is Umar was far more successful in his wrestling than Mokaev was. I think this is a perfect progression for Mokaev. I think Alex Perez made sense in the ladder there. I think this fight made sense. Did he destroy Alex Perez? Absolutely not. Absolutely not did he destroy Alex Perez. But did he win this fight? Did he deal with some real adversity? Of course he did. And it was a unanimous decision. It should have been a unanimous decision because I do think when Mokaev got into some trouble, he was able to get the wrestling. He was able to make something happen. But Perez was good. He was scrappy. He dropped is a very loose term. He cracked Mokaev's leg so bad that it sat him down, and then Mokaev had to be careful about how he got back up. I think Alex Perez earned a lot of people's respects. I was all over him for hasn't won a fight in 4 years, and I guess he still hasn't. Hasn't beaten anybody that's an active fighter in the UFC roster, and he still hasn't. But he did look excellent, and he pushed one of the youngest, most touted prospects to the limit. Muhammad Mokaev was very close to losing this fight. Maybe not on the judges' scorecards, but he was very close to losing this fight. Because there was a few exchanges where Perez was winning the exchanges, stuffing the takedowns. And all of a sudden, if Muhammad Mokaev panicked and he started doing what Javid did, which is shooting trash takedowns from too far away, and those were getting easily stuffed by Perez, all of a sudden, that's what the judges see. And they say, oh, this kid's desperate. He's not winning. Yeah, he definitely lost this round. Remember how desperate he was a minute ago? Luckily for Mokaev, or congratulations for him, it's not luck, he's earned it. He was composed. And we've seen him overcome adversity before. Joffo Filio almost had his leg snapped in half. Tim Means was about to beat him. Or Tim Elliott? Yeah, was about to beat him. Tim Elliott was about to beat him in a bad decision, and he finished him in the third round. So we've seen Muhammad Mokaev in trouble before, but we've never seen Muhammad Mokaev have trouble the entire fight. We saw him get caught real quick with Joffo, get caught real quick with Malcolm Gordon. We saw Tim Elliott have a few takedowns, but we never saw him in a scrap and deal with that the whole time. The bad side is his wrestling's not as good as we thought. The bad side is his cardio is not as good as we thought. The good side is he's got some guts. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He doesn't panic. He perseveres. He pushes forward, and he gets the job done. Congratulations to Muhammad Mokaev. And honestly, hopefully Alex Perez gets another fight because he earned another fight. He fought his ass off. They fed him to a kid that they thought was going to destroy him, and he didn't. So Alex Perez has earned himself another fight. Muhammad Mokaev, we got to watch these matchups closely. The O will go eventually. I just don't know when, and I don't know against who, but kid got tired. struggled with some takedowns, and his striking borderline sucks. So it's going to be very interesting to see who they give Makhachev next, if they're just like, all right, full fraud check time, or if they're going to try to continue to build him up. Co-main event, Vitor Petrino. Tyson Pedro. Tyson Pedro retired. Laid his gloves down, retired. And honestly, in that fight, he looked like a man that was contemplating retirement. Didn't really do much. Go out like Robbie Lawler. Tell everybody, I'm retiring this fight. Go out like the Korean Zombie. I'm retiring after this fight. And just put it all out there. Tyson Pedro did not put it all out there. And I don't know if it necessarily would have mattered. Because Vitor Petrino, while he's not the more technical fighter in this fight or almost any fight, he is such a beast. He went 15 full minutes at a good pace. 15 full minutes. And it wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, but that's because we all had it drilled in our heads that Vitor Petrino was going to knock this guy. He was going to knock him out. Tyson Pedro is a finisher. Vitor's a finisher. This fight's going to be over immediately. We had that in our heads. So when it wasn't over immediately, we're like, oh, what the hell? But Vitor Petrino is going to be a problem for people as long as he continues to evolve. If he doesn't evolve, then he's just a powerful guy that spends a lot of energy throwing big punches. Looping punches. I mean, his jab is wildly stiff. But what was impressive, a guy built like this, a guy who basically looks like me from the neck down, just chiseled, jacked, boom, brown as hell. It's crazy. These kids, I don't know what they're doing that they just turn the lights on in the hallway. But what was most impressive to me is a guy built like Vitor Petrino with that much muscle was able to stay active. He didn't gas. He didn't slow down. His muscles weren't just loaded with lactic acid. There was a slob on this card named Shamil, looking like he's never done a sit-up in his whole life. That guy got tired. His muscles got tired. And I know he looks the part from the outside looking in. If you don't understand MMA and weight cutting and all of that, you would assume that Vitor Petrino would have better cardio than the slob Shamil. But we all know to carry this much muscle and still have excellent cardio is an anomaly. That is not a normal thing. So Vitor Petrino is nuts. He hits hard. He's fast. He's athletic. And the fact that in the third round, he's picking up Tyson Pedro, slamming him to the ground, still has energy, muscle, cardio, still can do all the things in the third round is wildly impressive. He does need to work on his skills. His skills are not great, but he has been gifted a lot of things. He looks at his coaches in the middle of the fight. He nods, he listens, he pays attention. He seems like somebody who's very coachable. He's only had 11 fights ever. I think Vitor Petrino can be a problem, but they need to be careful how they match him up. If they start giving him super technical people, they'll just piece him apart. Keep giving him people that he can bully while working on techniques and things like that. People were pissed that this fight didn't end immediately. Yeah, was it the most exciting fight in the world? No. But what was nice is we got to see that his cardio lasts a while. We got to see that he can still explode and do crazy things in the third round. So Vitor Petrino might very well be the real deal in a 205-pound weight class that isn't that good. There's not a lot of talent at 205. There's a couple of blown-up 185-pounders. Outside of that, this is not a great weight class. So Vitor Petrino can quickly become somebody in this weight class. And then we had the main event of the evening. Listen, Jairzinho, I apologize. I picked against you. I bet against you. I lost money. I lost $100 because I thought that the man you are punching directly in the face in this picture was going to be able to come forward and get the takedowns. That's what I thought was going to happen. And while he did have success with one takedown, the rest of them were long gone. And you have to credit Jairzinho for that. There's two ways to go here. You could very quickly say, well, he's a fraud. Gaziev is a fraud. He got fraud checked. He's a fraud. And there's some aspect to that. But I also think you need to go the other direction and say, you know what? While Jairzinho's takedown defense isn't Ben Askren's takedown defense, it looked very good. It looked improved. There was 3 separate occasions where Gaziev had a single very high. This is a large man. Had a single very high up in the air. And Jairzinho worked the underhook on the other side, stomped his foot to the ground, and got his base back. And then he circled out and just absolutely pumped the jab. So yes, you can call Gaziev a fraud. He was fraud checked, and frankly, he was fraud checked by a jab. But I also think the narrative should focus on Jairzinho and the improvements he's made as well. It is not just an undefeated guy showing up looking terrible, because he didn't look terrible. He didn't look terrible until his face was getting beat in with a jab. He didn't look terrible till he gassed. And the only reason he gassed is because he couldn't get takedowns. And the reason he couldn't get takedowns is because Jairzinho was defending them appropriately. So yes, that very first takedown that he got, Jairzinho was on his back, didn't have much to offer. But it was a 265-pound man laying on top of him. What was he going to do? But he survived. He got through it, circled, took his time, didn't overextend himself. When he saw his openings in the 3rd round, the 4th round, he started to exchange a little bit, started to look for that finish, ultimately got the finish. Shamil quit on the stool. And the Mark Goddard part of that was incredible because something was happening in the corner. Obviously, nobody spoke that language. Mark Goddard certainly didn't, but he could tell that Gaziev wanted out and his corner wasn't going to let him out. And that's why Mark Goddard was like, wait a minute, absolutely not. What is going on? What did he tell you? If you didn't watch the fight, Shamil was like glossy-eyed in his corner. And he was arguing with his corner. We think, based off of the little bit we heard in the cage, Shamil was saying he can't see. And I think his corner was, remember last week, you don't need to see to fight. I think his corner was pulling that bullshit. But Gaziev just took that road. And Mark Goddard called in the doctor, was demanding from the corner. He literally said, do the right thing and tell me what he said. And the corner did the right thing. He said he can't see. And then Mark Goddard's looking at him, the ref's looking at him. And then Mark Goddard's like, fight's over. I'm done with this, fight's over. And it was the right call. Nothing was going to change. He was going to lose a decision. He had no more cardio. The takedown was long gone. That was never going to happen again. So congratulations to Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I look about as stupid as I could look picking against him and betting against him on a guy that has 5.5 minutes of cardio. Big mistake on my part. That will not happen again. But I do think Shamil can still win fights at the heavyweight division. Because for the first 5 minutes, he did look good. He ate some big monster shots. He did come forward. He's a giant human being. And when he got the takedown, he had great control. He was on top. He was big. He was heavy. He had a wrestle-heavy game plan, which made sense, right? He was fighting a dangerous striker. I think Shamil can have some success at this weight class. It's not the deepest weight class in the world, but congratulations to Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I am curious to see who they give him next. This was his 6th main event. 6. There is no UFC champion with more main events than him. No active UFC champion has more than 6 main events. So all of a sudden, Jairzinho heads up another fight night. He's the active leader for main events. But congrats to Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He's been trolling me all week. He's been tweeting videos of me, throwing me in stories, talking about he's going to lose. And he knew he was going to win. This was a very confident man. Because to do all of that and then lose is like really embarrassing. But he did all of that and then didn't lose. So I'm the idiot. He is not. Congratulations to Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Guys, the safety parlay did not cash tonight. It didn't cash tonight. Javid Basharat lost the safety parlay. You could blame him. You could blame the judges. I'm going to blame the judges, and I'm being objective about that. But if we zoom out and we look at the safety parlay, we have UFC 299 next week. I am 5-0 in the last 5 safety parlays on pay-per-views. 5.2147 units of net profit on the pay-per-views. And if we zoom out just a little bit more, 71% event win rate, 29% lifetime ROI, and I've never had a losing month. So yes, Javid blew it for me. Moreno blew it for me. But I believe, and we'll be back on track. You can unlock the safety parlay, the picks, the bets, the round line leans, and more. WeWantPicks.com. Just click become a member of the top. It's only $10 a month. And if you're looking for 50, I'll send you 50. Go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use the link, sign up, make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing. They're going to pay me. I'm going to slice off some of that money and give it right back to you.